Space is, for most people, the number one resource that we basically just have a super limited amount of inside of the garage gym. So are you tired of cramped workspaces? Are you tired of having limited floor space and taking it up with superfluous equipment? Well, if the answer to that question is yes, and you're looking for the maximum amount of capability that you can get out of the space that you have, then the answer is going to be using stuff like the surplus strength UPS bundle, which is the UPS high and low. I'll be breaking down this review into 4 sections. First, we're going to start with description, materials, how well it's constructed. After that, we're going to cover my training notes, my use notes, and I've had this piece of equipment for more than 2 years now. After that, we will talk about the price, and at the very end, of course, as always, my final thoughts. So when you're on the Surplus Strength website, you're going to come across a product called the UPS bundle. The UPS bundle is simply the UPS high and the UPS low bundled together into a single package. But what is the UPS? UPS stands for Universal Pulley System. And what it does is it attaches to any 2x3 or 3x3 rack with either 5/8 or 1-inch hardware, and it turns your power rack into a lat tower and low row, but it doesn't take up any additional footprint. It's a 1-to-1 ratio type of system, and the weight is loaded via a loading pin that sits on the floor below the UPS high. Now you might be wondering to yourself, what makes this different than buying, say, like a Spud Inc. single pulley system or any of those Amazon special single pulley systems that you get? And the answer is that the double pulleys inside of the UPS high actually offer a better control over the amount of swing as well as the angle of pull that you get out of your system. How those double pulleys work is that you basically translate the load so that as one rises, one goes straight down, but there's a gap in between the two. What that does is it eliminates the swing that's normally produced by some of those other units that use a strap over a cross member or over a pull-up bar. When you pull those single ones, if you have a lot of weight as you pull, if this is the pulley down here, basically it angles that load, which causes the weight stack to swing. Additionally, it makes it really difficult for the lifter to get directly below the load, which is something that you will want when you're performing lat pull downs. Now, the UPS was very deliberately designed, and if you look on the back side of the unit, it was designed so that a 45-pound plate would easily clear a upper and lower cross member when you have the weight pin suspended right below it. Now, the UPS high is formed with 11-gauge 3x3, but the gusset that actually goes over the cross member that I have bolted into my unit is made out of 3/16 material. Those two materials come together and are welded into a very strong unit that can support a tremendous amount of weight, and I have tested this with a full weight stack, basically being unsuccessful in trying to pull it for anything that would be considered an actual exercise, but it basically doesn't move at all. Now, the base unit, which I don't actually have these pulleys, but it comes with the thermoplastic pulleys. Now, those thermoplastic pulleys can be upgraded to the pulleys I have, which are the aluminum. We'll cover that later when we talk about price. That load is delivered through the pulleys to the lifter via a custom length cable that you custom order when you place the order for your rack. Basically, all you do is if you have a 90-inch rack, you enter 90 inches into the custom cable length. For me, I have a 100-inch rack, and so I entered 100 when I entered that cable length. And what Jason and team do over at Surplus Strength is they basically cut that cable when you order your UPS. All of the hardware that's on the rack is stainless steel hardware. It's all very high quality, uses Allen wrenches as well as nylon locked nuts to hold everything together. And it has UHMW lining on anything that touches your power rack. So you can attach your UPS high using 2 general methods. One, you can use a pin of some variety, so either a speed pin or a hitch pin, or you can do what I did where I just basically bolted in my UPS because I never move it. My UPS stays where it's at. The cable is custom tucked out of the way, and I just use bolts because I'm never going to move this thing. Why would I want hitch pins tucked in at the top of my rack? I just don't like the way it looks, and I prefer the way it looks when it's bolted in. One distinct advantage that the UPS offers over other cable options that attach to your rack, talking about things like the Rogue Slinger, and some other variations of that, there are different versions of that, is that the UPS only produces about 2 extra inches of clearance, which for a lot of people in low ceiling situations can make all the difference in the world. By only having to go 2 inches above your rack, most people are in a position where their ceiling height can easily accommodate the UPS. The UPS low is a redirect attachment that can be bundled with the UPS high. Now, to be clear here, you have to have the UPS high in order to make the UPS low work properly. It's made out of the same material. It comes with high quality steel. Again, I have the aluminum pulleys here, but it comes with those thermoplastic pulleys. It comes with an additional custom length cable, which, as I stated earlier, is based off of the height of your rack. The main idea behind the UPS low is that it takes a vertically loaded cable and it translates it into a horizontally loaded cable, giving you that low row capability that we've all come to expect from most lat towers on the market. In order to make this work effectively, you do have to have a horizontal cross member that's mounted directly below or slightly off-centered from the UPS high. So for me, with this being on the back of my rack, and I have a 3/4 enclosed bottom power rack, it worked really well just putting the UPS low over the rear cross member directly below the UPS high. Most people in most gym situations, especially in your home gym, would probably find more success taking this off the side of your rack because most home gyms actually keep that back cross member open. So if you're watching this video and considering the UPS, that's something to consider. If you don't have a rear cross member, then you're probably going to have to either purchase that rear cross member or just set your system up to work off of the side of the rack instead of off the back of the rack. The UPS low consists of basically the channel that goes over the rear cross member, the pins that hold it in place. For this, you probably will have to either pin or speed pin it into place. You probably won't want to keep it in position all the time because it does take up a little bit of space here. It does come with this nice 20-degree layback so that your feet can comfortably fit on the grip tape on this angled portion. And it has this V-notch that's cut out of the actual footplate assembly to allow that cable to glide in there without any restrictions on your movement or without grinding the cable on any piece of steel. Now, I said it before, but I'm just going to reiterate it here. The UPS high that I have and the UPS low that I have are the old design. The only real difference between the old design and the new design are going to be the color options, which there are two standard color options, which are going to be flat red or flat black, and the fact that I only have 1-inch holes. The new system actually comes with a combined 5/8 and 1-inch capability. So if you're using a Monster Light or a Monster rack, or if you're using a 3x3 rack that uses 5/8 or 1-inch material, it will come with the necessary holes that you need to mount it to your rack all in one unit. Although it's only available in that flat red or flat black, that doesn't mean that you're out of options. If you have a custom color that you'd like, you can pick any RAL color code and you can include that on the special order version, which for a small upcharge, you can get this thing colored however you want it. So now that I've covered the materials, construction, basically what it is, I'm going to tell you about my training notes. So my training notes are almost entirely positive. So as a lat pull down, as a low row attachment, I absolutely love the UPS. For me, it is essential into my training. Some examples of the exercises that I perform using the UPS high include lat pull downs, tricep extensions, straight arm extensions, face pulls, those kind of things where you need that upper anchor in that you need that vertical pull or semi-vertical pull. Maybe you're pulling back at an angle. Now, I have tested the thermoplastic pulleys versus the aluminum pulleys because I have thermoplastic pulleys on another rack that I use, and the difference is marginal. I mean, the aluminum is better, but the thermoplastic works just fine. Either way, both units operate very smoothly, very effectively, and really my only negative note from it is that you will have to kind of actively keep yourself down as the lat stack starts to equal your body weight. Now, I solved that really easily. I have these surplus strength rack rollers. And I've used other types of rollers as well. And I basically just attach these to my spotter arms that are on the rack. They go over my legs. I can slip right in, and it basically feels like I'm using a commercial lat tower. No difference, no break in functionality. Now, the amount of swing that's produced by the double pulley, because it's not completely eliminated, it can still be there. However, I most often find it affects me with tricep extensions or something where there's a moderately light amount of weight loaded on the loading pin. And if you're pulling really quickly and you kind of have like that floaty bit at the top, and what it'll do is just kind of pull it out of alignment. Really, the answer there is to just control the weight and make sure you move nice and slow. And realistically, the swing is so little that it really doesn't matter Now, to eliminate that swing to the greatest extent possible, you do have to do a slight little pull. So what you'll do is you get your loading pin down, you'll put it down underneath the UPS high, and then you'll load all your weight. After you have your weight loaded, connect the carabiner. And my recommendation is that for that first pull that you do, basically pull it like 1 inch off the ground and let it kind of swing to directly below the anchor point. After that, you can pull away and it'll be just fine. What I generally do though is I pull about 1 inch, I let it swing, and then I tap it to the ground, pull it again to make sure that it's centered. Most of the time it is at that point, and then you perform your movements. Now, the UPS low performs just as well as the UPS high. Again, the aluminum pulley upgrade is nice, but I've used the thermoplastic pulleys and they are honestly almost just as nice. It's just a matter of me wanting the aluminum ones because the option was there. I've used the UPS low for movements like bicep curls, low rows, front raises, calf raises. There's basically a ton of movements that you can do with the UPS low. As for the entire system though, I give it an A+. It works super well. It does exactly what I need. And like I started this video out talking about, it doesn't take up any floor space at all. You already are taking up the floor space with the rack. All I'm doing is I'm making my rack more functional without actually interfering with the main operation of a power rack, which is to do my compound lifts. Also, like I said earlier, it has that 1-to-1 ratio, which means that all of the math on how much weight is actually loaded, you don't have to question when you move the pin on a selectorized machine, and you have to start looking at the pulleys and like, oh, is this 4-to-1, a 2-to-1? This says 25 pounds, so is that 25 pounds felt? One thing I would love to see, because if I don't give surplus strength anything to shoot at, how do they know what to develop, is a plate pin that can change weights without having to disconnect the carabiner. The reason that this is important is because let's say that you do a set of lat pull downs at 135 and you're like, you know what, I need to go up, 20 pounds or 25 pounds or whatever it is. Right now, using the single pin, you actually have to disconnect the carabiner and then you have to lower the attachment, change your weight, and then pull the cable back down and reconnect it to the pin. But either way, that's one thing. That's like one process of using the UPS that I don't actually prefer. I know that that can be incredibly difficult to do, and there are some DIY workarounds I've seen. People like Darko have created like these straps essentially that wrap around the plate post and they have change plate storage on them. And that is one solution that you could do. And because of how far the UPS high moves the weight out from the cross member, it accommodates almost any load. Obviously, if you're stacking 45s on the edge of a 45, that probably won't work too well. But for change plates and, putting 10s, 5s, 2.5s, that works perfectly. Now, the most important thing for almost every home gym owner is going to be what is the price tag for this high functioning piece of equipment. So $695 gets you the UPS bundle, which is the UPS high, UPS low, the cables that you need for both of those. That comes with the thermoplastic pulleys as well as the plate loading pin to make the entire system work. If you need hitch pins included, or you need speed pins included because you don't have 1 inch or 5/8 hitch pins or speed pins, that does come at $40 for the hitch pins or $50 for the speed pins, which I honestly would recommend just going for the $10 upgrade. And it's another $75 to upgrade to the aluminum pulleys. And again, the thermoplastic pulleys work just fine. So I think that for most home gym users, the upgrade isn't really necessary. So let's say that you think it is necessary though, you disagree with me and you're like, hey, I just want the top of the line package, because after all, that is my thinking and that's why I have the system I have. You're looking at $875 plus shipping for the UPS high and the UPS low. That seems like a really high number, especially when you're considering that it is a rack attachment. But let me just make a case real quick. And again, it comes back, I keep coming back to this, but it comes back to the big value here, which is that you are getting A+ functionality from a lat tower low row without taking up 1 extra square inch of floor space. Additionally, it's entirely made in USA. It is almost entirely sourced from USA, but for a lot of people that doesn't matter. So another thing that you're doing is you're supporting a very small business, and it is a veteran-owned business, which for me is one of my 3 things. Again, I'm all about made in USA, veteran-owned, or incredibly high-quality equipment. If it's not one of those 3, I'm just not interested. And most of the equipment I have is 2 or 3 of those. That $870 price tag does seem pretty high, but how does that $870 price tag compare to some of the other lat tower low row plate loaded variations that are on the market? Now, Titan Fitness offers their plate-loaded lat tower low row. Doesn't have the same smoothness. It doesn't have the same length of pull as the UPS, but you can get that a floor model for $570. Now, I did review that, and I actually don't hate it. I think it's a pretty decent quality piece of equipment. It's like surely okay. If I was giving it a grade, it would get like a C+. If you wanted to get something a little bit nicer, the Bell's steel plate loaded, which again takes up floor space, is going to come in at $999. And then of course, last but not least, it was just covered in some of the other reviews out there available from like Gluck's Gym, but he just reviewed the giant lifting plate loaded low row, and it comes in at a very low and affordable price of $450. And based on Gluck's review, I think it probably works a little bit better than the Titan Fitness version. No matter which way you look at it though, with those other versions, you're going to lose about 57 inches by 41 inches of space that you could be using for something else that actually makes a big impact on your training. The biggest advantage that you're getting with the UPS versus those other options besides the footprint is that you're getting that 300 plus capacity, 300 pound plus capacity in a lat power low row that doesn't take up any additional footprint, is very well made, it's very smooth, and again, like that space is super important to me, and I know it's super important to a lot of you. One other really cool advantage of using the UPS is that if you are in a large facility, so like let's say that you're in a collegiate style facility, you're a coach and you're trying to outfit your new power rack setup, or let's say that you're trying to increase your capability because you have a bottleneck at the lat tower. What you can actually do is you can purchase a couple of these systems. And again, you don't have to purchase the bundle. So just purchase the UPS High. And the UPS High just by itself is definitely worth the money. And what you do is you maximize the amount of capability that you have in your space. So if you're a coach, you're a CrossFit coach, and I don't know if CrossFit ever does lat pull downs or not, but let's say that you have a single lat tower, but you want to have everybody do lat pull downs at the same time. If you have a system like the UPS, that's not impossible to do. It's actually super easy to do. So if you're ready to revolutionize your gym, your workouts, and add a little touch of class and style to your power rack, the universal pulley system, in my opinion, is the correct answer. Don't miss out. Grab yours today, and don't forget to save 5% on your order by using code KurtLocker at checkout. That's been it for this review. I appreciate each and every single one of you that watch these videos every week. Remember, when it comes to your home gym and your training, you should always keep it better, awesome, and of course, badass. See you next time.